necessity of that greenback dollar, and I want you to speak to that a little later. Kamal, you have some issue with how the collective diaspora is going to impart on Africa and how Africa is going to impart on them in the system. Could you speak to that?
Yeah, I was just wanted, I don't know if the chief can elaborate on the, how the African Union, because the thing is that, like you have an organization called Freemasonry. There's millions of Freemasons around the world, but it's a pyramid effect. Like the Freemasons at the bottom of the totem pole aren't necessarily aware of what the people at the top of the pyramid agenda is. So like with the African Union, I'm just curious to know that who's at the top of this pyramid? Because according to the African Union, that's a setup for one world government. You have the European Union, the North American Union, which is going to be Canada, the United States, and Mexico. You have the Pacific Island Union, you have the Asian Union, and the African Union, and those are all supposed to be the super states under this one world government. And so your concern is? My concern is not for us to trip ourselves into something else that we don't want to fall into. It's always going to be presented to us as something we needed and we want. It's not going to be like how you might see in the movies or in the books, like we're going to be fed into this. No, you're going to accept it. You're going to want these things when they're put into place. When every stone is put into place, the people are going to want it. So as being conscious, you know what I'm saying, I have to be aware of these things. And because of how conscious I am, I've been aware for these things for over the past 20 years now. And so your main concern is you need to know who the shot callers are, yeah, and what calls are they calling. Yeah, because they can lead the sheep to the slaughter. You know what I'm saying? And that's what we don't want to happen. We don't want to lead the sheep to the slaughter. We want to, you know, take control of our own destinies. Thanks, Kamal. And it is important for all of us to be vigilant, as I said earlier, to back up the truth. When you get information, research it out, back it up, be vigilant in this truth and accept it. And Chief, would you speak to us briefly, just briefly, about who's the mastermind and organizers of the USA Africa Coalition?
You see, what has been going on in the past is the bastardization and misinformation. People over here need to know more facts about what Africa is really worth. As far back as the days of Emperor Haile Selassie, there used to be the OAU, Organization of Africa Unity. I said in my explanation that 5 regions make Africa: the West Africa, the East, the Central, and the North. Each of these regions has a combination of countries. In West Africa, we have about 15 countries. And each of these countries belongs to the colonial masters. We have the Francophone, the Anglophone, the Lusophone in the same region. The same thing in East Africa, the same thing in South, the same thing in the North. Now, when the Organization of African Unity see the fact that there must be a need for them to unite together, as far back as 1964, they formed the Organization of African Unity. Now, in the year 2004, they now convert the OAU to African Union. In Europe today, there is European Union. What the European Union meant is to strengthen the economy of Europe. And you say they fashioned the euro to combat the dollars. The center of the European Union is in Frankfurt, Germany. Now, if the African Union saw the need for the entire African nations to work together, in West Africa, we have the Economic Community of West Africa that combine the Francophone, the Lusophone together. What I'm saying now, Nigeria belongs to Anglophone. Cote d'Ivoire belongs to the Francophone. Nigeria and Cote d'Ivoire cannot trade together because of the colonization. That was before. The African Union saw the need that if my neighboring country cannot trade with me and you want to ship the goods to anywhere, you have to go to France before you come to the neighboring country. You cannot travel with your money to go and trade with your brothers and sisters how the hell can we move forward?
That's right.
Those are the reasons why the African Union come into being. And the African Union still have the same setup that was formatted by Nkrumah and Emperor Haile Selassie. The headquarters of African Union now is in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Now, this African Union has now presented Africa as a body that cannot be divided because Africa is free of slavery, is still entangled with economic slavery. Now presenting Africa as a body to the Americas, to the international community is exactly the work of the African Union. Now they want to make sure that the 6th region of Africa, which is the diaspora that I've just explained, is invited to participate in the economy of Africa. So the idea is, what the African Union has done is that the misinformation that has been going on in the past is over. We profess a kind of project to now create the African village here that will now spell the 54 countries in Africa. People are now earning to now have what they call DNA. You don't need to go to DNA before you know who you are. If you see the potential of what Ghana is, what Sierra Leone is, what Senegal is, you will be able to trace what exactly you could do, what you belong to, and that has been endorsed here.
Thank you, Chief.
That will provide nothing less than 100,000 jobs. So it invites and brings in the education, the politics, the economy of Africa to the doorstep of our brothers and sisters.
And it's so vital and so important to do that because not only is Africa in economic slavery.
That's right.
People, Africans in America are in economic slavery by the fact that you only use one currency and you don't control that currency. There's no debate at that point. Thank you so much. Black Son, do you want to speak to the issues of Africa?
Yeah, I went on the internet, and just like Tunde, they were talking about uniting Africa, but it was one thing that I had a problem with. It had Omar Gaddafi's face on it, saying the king of Africa. But not saying anything bad about Gaddafi, I know his vision. He wants to unite Africa, but we can't do it under an Arab. It has to be somebody of black descent. Let's not pretend and fool ourselves, you know what I'm saying? Because we got white people over in Africa calling themselves Africans, Arabs over there, you know what I'm saying? And then over here in America, we get hung up on, well, I'm black, or I don't want to be labeled as African. I want to be a Nubian. I want to be a Hebrew Israelite. We got all these semantics. We know who we are. We know what we look like. We don't need no DNA to know that we are black people in America, the diaspora, and in the motherland. Okay, so we have a council right here. There's going to be a council at the Black Power Conference. We, just like how Chief Tunde was saying, we are the persons that give the authority, that should give the authority. And with that being said, brothers and sisters, I hear this big debate about Africa being a continent, not a country. But see, our DNA is telling us it is a country because Europe set up those boundaries. Europe set up the division between, like my dad, he's from Tanzania. The Maasai do not recognize the border between Tanzania and Kenya. That's the border that the cracker done set up, okay? So with that being said, brothers and sisters, we do need to unite. And I am for the union of Africa, but we got to do it under black power. You know what I'm saying? And if need be said, people, they can watch the show, but we as black men of the diaspora, we need cultural privacy. That means no Arabs, no Europeans, no Chinese. We need cultural privacy amongst ourselves to discuss what we're going to do as far as economics, because Africa is the richest nation on the planet. Resources, hello?
Well, do we need that privacy, excluding them, or do we need them to respect that privacy and support our aims?
When I say privacy, what we need is like, we all have an agenda as black men, okay? A white person can't tell black people on how to think because we are black men. Not even, and I hate to say this to the sisters, even we need privacy from the sisters because a lot of them have been Willie lynched. Now don't get me wrong, there's sisters out there that are conscious, but we as black men need to come together because we are the warriors, okay? Because black women, the first thing they'll tell you, you talk about